Okay, so we're going to begin the topic of demons, right? Very interesting topic, very scary for some people, but very informative for others. So when people hear demons, most people say, come on, what are you talking about? All this stuff is fake, it means nothing. Oh, we have to remember we'll welcome all our Torah Anytime viewers. How could we forget, right? The thousands of people that watch this video when it gets uploaded, have to welcome them. So, but anyways, going back to, so people speak about demons, you hear about it, either people are like, yes, 100% I agree, it must be there, or other people are like, there's no such thing, it's all imagination, all this stuff is fake. So let's see what the Torah is going to say about the topic of demons. Now, the first thing is that we have to understand is a lot of people, what they think is that if they don't see something, it's fake. It's not real, it's not there. This is a very, very misconception on all aspects of reality, right? The microorganisms, we don't see microorganisms. Now we know that there's microorganisms. In fact, the majority of things that we have in this world, we don't see. Right? There are so many cosmic waves that are going in front of us. There's so many radio waves. There's so many, picture waves and sound waves and all these different types of waves that are flying right behind us. We see nothing. Right? Things are getting transmitted from our cell phones to other places. We don't see how it gets transmitted. There's so many things that are, to our eye, we don't see, but yet it does exist. Till the Hubble telescope came out, what was it, whatever it was, I don't know, so Edward Hubble, whenever the Hubble telescope came out, we only realized the vast majority of our universe. Until then, we didn't, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, how many stars did people think that there was? There was whatever you could see, they figured that's what there was, right? Whatever you can't see, it's obviously not, there's nothing else there, right? To the naked eye, how many stars can be seen? I don't know, 7,000, 8,000 stars or something like that, and that's all they thought there was. In fact, there are billions of stars. Right? So we see from here that there are many things that our eye can't see, but yet it does exist. But even go furthermore, there's smells. Right now we're sitting in the room with a bunch of people. Everybody has their own scent, right? We don't smell it. How do you? The dogs, if they have certain dogs that are trained to find certain people, they give them something to smell that they wore, and now they're able to go and track them down. So right now you go and you smell somebody, you shouldn't be going smelling people, but if you go and smell somebody, right, you're not going to start to, oh yeah, you smell, you smell like Moshe, you smell like Avi. Who knows? You don't know how the other person smells, but yet there are so many things that are giving off that we have absolutely no idea of what's going on, right? When I just do this, a bunch of organisms flew off, right? You don't know anything. If you would see how much organisms are in your food, you wouldn't eat, right? So there's so many things that exist in reality and yet we don't see, but yet we know that it exists, right? Now, if this ignorance is in our physical world, so much so in our spiritual world, right? People say, oh, I don't see God. Well, you don't see God. You don't see radio waves. What, you want to see God? You can barely look at the sun. You want to see God? There's so many people that don't believe it straight out, which is the most foolish thing that they could say. Right? There's so many things we don't say. So demons is something that we generally, and I say generally, we don't see. Yet, what does the Torah say if they exist or they do not? Now, B'ezrat Hashem, I do want to speak about, there's a mixed opinions in the Torah perspective if demons exist or if demons do not exist. The majority say that it does exist because the Gemara speaks about it. Even there's some psukim that refer to it, which we'll soon see. And there are a few that say that they don't. Right? The Rambam, Maimonides, is one of the most famous that says that demons don't exist, and we'll answer how that works. B'ezrat Hashem at the end of the class. They don't exist. So we'll answer B'ezrat Hashem at the end of the class. Hopefully we'll get there today of how is it possible, how does this work? How does he say no and they say yes? So, what the... Yes, of course.
But it's recorded in Shalom Melech.
There are many things and he answers all of them. The Rambam answers, you look in more in Nevuchim, he answers more in Nevuchim a bunch of things. That he answers, different things. The Psukim, how he answers it all up. So, that's an entire class and just in itself and just on that. But the Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky does answer the generalized, which we'll B'ezrat Hashem speak about. So additionally, before we go on to begin the actual topic, there are many times that besides the fact that we don't see everything that actually exists, there are things that other lenses and other cameras, other animals are able to see things that we don't. An example is that there's sometimes a camera takes a picture, and in that picture, when you develop it, you see that there's something else in the background that wasn't there. It could be like a figure of a person, it could be a figure of whatever it is. That wasn't there before, but it is there now, right? And that's depending on the frequency of the camera. And it's not you can't get like a magic camera that's going to capture all of this, Ghostbusters frequency. But there are certain times that these things do happen to show up. Now, that being said, don't start Googling and searching up all things because most of them are fake. most of those pictures out there are fake because they're Photoshop. So what they did was that when they did this type of research, they researched before Photoshop exists. So you're looking back in the 50 years ago, 60 years ago, when they took pictures and they saw that it developed and it had a ghost picture. And if later, at the end of the class, I'll pass around some pictures that I have here that were proven that they were not Photoshop, and there's pictures there of previous people that are not alive anymore. So you see that there are things that were caught, and you see also more than that is that you see people. Sometimes people see things, right? I'll tell you a story that I was giving a class once a few weeks ago, and somebody came over to me afterwards, and he told me he was not in New York. Thank you. He's not in New York, and he was in his family member's home, and while he was on the phone on his home, he was on his phone. Right? And the camera just happened to go on. He was like playing through his phone and the camera went on and it was dark. And in the camera, he looks and he sees in the distance in the corner of the room like a shape of like a woman. A shape of a woman with something on her hair, on her head. And he looks quickly off because he was alone in the room and nobody's there. And then he looks back at the camera, it's there. Takes it away, it's not there. And he described me, it was like a blue light and everything he got very scared. Right? So I told him what I told him were the things that possibly can be done for that situation, but we see over here that there are things that are existing out there that we don't see, but yet they do exist. So now, with that introduction, let's go into what the Torah says about demons. First of all, is very interesting is that you'll never see the Torah when you look at Bereshit. It doesn't say, and God said, "Let there be demons." You'll never see that. It doesn't say that God let there be light, let there be this, let there be that, let there be everything. But there's nothing. Let there be demons, right? So demons are not an actual. They are. What happened was God actually created them ben hashmashat, which means right before sunset. So Shabbat, it was Friday afternoon, and it was right before Shabbat. God created the demons, and that's why we're going to soon see that they are half human and half angelic, and we're going to soon see which half and what characteristic.
Before Shabbat.
Before Shabbat, like God created it right before Shabbat, and then Shabbat came. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't finish it. Now you're half made, half baked." Huh? After man, after the sin.
That's his last creation.
So there was a few things. There were 10 things that were created. Ben Hashmashot, the mouth of the earth, the mouth of the donkey. There's all those things that were there. Yeah. Okay. So so that's the original creation of demons wasn't that at that particular time. Then when there's a Gemara in Eruvin, right, page 18b, that speaks about that Adam after the sin of the tree, he separated from his wife for 130 years. And during this separation of 130 years, it says that he begot things in his image. And the explanation is that he bore, basically demons. And they ask, how did he bore these demons? It was through unintentional seminal, release. So the semen came out unintentionally, and through that came demons, right? And we're going to soon see that when somebody weighs seeds, these things, it goes somewhere, right? There's a reason why it affects a person's mazal. It's a reason why we'll soon B'ezrat Hashem see about that. So that's another source. Yeah.
What is demons?
Demons are, what are they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So that's another source of where they're created. Additionally, there's another Gemara in Sanhedrin, page 109a, that says that during the time of the generation where they wanted to build a big tower to fight against God. So during that time, there were 3 groups. And the 3 groups each wanted to build a tower for different purposes. One of them said, let us build a big tower so we could get up to the heavens so we could live there. Another group said, let us go up to this, build a big tower so we could wage war against God. Right? And they used to shoot arrows at God. And the third one said, let us go up there and serve idols. So the Gemara explains each one got their own punishment. This here is something we see also very important, is that there's three people are doing the same sin. But where's the origin of the sin? What's the reason for the sin also comes into effect for the punishment. Now listen to this. The group that said, let us go up there and let us live over there, let's dwell there. So the punishment for them is God scattered them throughout the world. God scattered them all over the place. The group that said, let us ascend and wage war, those were turned into apes, spirits, devils, and night demons. Here's another source that we see that these people that wanted to wage war against God, these people turned into demons, right? And, just on the side note, it also says apes. Evolution says that we came from apes. The Torah explains that no, apes came from us. There are certain apes that came from us, that were turned into from humans. Like big monkeys, I guess you could say. Yeah. Okay. So and then the third category was the people that said, "Let us go up there and serve idols." For that, God, besides scattering them, He also changed their tongue. They didn't all speak the same language. And before that,
What does it say in
in the Gemara, I'll show it to you afterwards. Said the Gemara in Chagiga. I have it here in English. Said the Gemara in Chagiga that in 16:8 that the demon, how they look, how they're characterized. There are three parts. Three things are like humans, and three things are like angels. How are they like angels? They have wings. They have wings, and they are able to fly from one point of the earth to another. They're able to fly great distance in short amounts of time. And more than that is they could survive in places where humans can't survive. The coldest places, the places that they're able to survive in the places where we are not. The hottest places, the coldest places, doesn't matter. Additionally, they know the short future, right? They can know the about 30 days in the future. They are able to know, right? What God already came out and said this is going to happen. They already know about it. So, how are they like? How are they like humans? They are like humans that they eat and they drink like human beings. They procreate like humans, and they die like humans. Okay, so there's three things like that are their character traits are like angels and are like and three like humans. Now there are more different criteria in how they look. I usually don't like speaking about that because that gets really graphic, and this is where people tell me they have nightmares. But maybe as we go soon, you'll get little tips and pieces on how they look, and you could formulate that together on how they actually look. Yes, yeah. Well, we're soon going to see. So, well, first of all, is that Moshe was saying something very important. He said that they look like us. They can change into whatever form they want to change. So they can make themselves look human, right? Which is a scary thing because you could see somebody and you don't know. Are you a demon?
They have some hands and foot.
They could change themselves everything except for one part of the body, which usually stays the same as their feet. Their feet are either feet. So the Gemara in Gittin, page 66a, is that they have either feet of like bird's feet or cow's hooves as feet. Right, and we're going to soon see a story of Shlomo HaMelech, how there was a demon there, and he was also always wearing socks, so he didn't want to show his feet. Also, they do not have free will, right? They don't have free will. They go based on instinct, right, or whatever God wants them to do is that how they do it. Now, also, additionally, is they see us, we don't see them, right? It's sort of an unfair playing ground, right? They could see us, but we cannot see them. So, okay, next.
Would you say that they're like cursed?
They definitely feel like they're cursed. They're cursed. This is the creation that God created them for. So there's more than that. Is that we were speaking before that there are certain frequencies that see things that we don't see. More than that, animals can also see things that we don't see. Right? We know the famous story is Bilam. Bilam's donkey saw an angel that Bilam couldn't see. And there are many times that people, if they own animals, they'll have suddenly you'll be quiet at night and you have a dog in the corner, and suddenly the dog will start running around in circles, or will start barking at a corner for absolutely no reason. A cat will just suddenly go crazy, right, or whatever it is, and these animals go crazy. They are able. I'm not saying that they could always, the second that they see that, they must be like, okay, well, there's someone here, take out your spiritual gun, But there's a chance that they saw something that you cannot see. And they were able to see it, and that's why sometimes they go crazy. They bark at nothing, and it's really something there. We just can't see it.
But animals, and they feel better than people.
Yeah. What do you mean they feel better?
Feel that.
Their senses, you mean? Their senses are, they're more keen, their senses. A dog has their, sense of smell. There's certain birds that have an unbelievable sense of sight, And there's, besides the speed and everything, and the hearing also, what is that, a bat, a dolphin, or something like that? They all. Yeah. So, but again, animals don't have free will. Says the Zohar, if we were given permission to see what's going around us, people will go crazy. People will not be able to function in life if they realize what's going on around us, right? If we would be able to see all the things that are flying around us, there are spirits, there are ghosts, there's demons, there's all these different things that are around us, all this mazakim. If we would be able to see that, first of all, no one would sin, right? It'd be like, come Shabbat, and be like, oh, you want to go for a cigarette? And you see like 14,000 demons over there, like standing on you with towering over you, like breathing fire, whatever it is. You'll be like, I'm staying right here. I'm not moving. Right? You won't be able to move. You won't be able to do anything. And what happens is, if we get to see those things and we lose our free will, who's going to sin when they see all this spiritual stuff going around? Who? Everyone's going to sit straight. So in order to have our free will, we are not able to see, as a majority of things, we are not able to see these demons and these mazakim. There are some times where people are able to sometimes you're in a room, and you could be by yourself. You're in a house. You're in a house by yourself, and suddenly, out of the corner of your eye, you see something shoot by. And you turn around, and you look, and your heart is like da, 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 and you're like, you're freezing, you're froze, your heart is beating so fast, and you're like, I could have sworn I saw something, and you're looking around and nothing is there, right? It's a possibility that sometimes you get a glimpse of something that was there, that a spiritual being that is there, that you could see a little bit, but now you can't see it. You can't see it completely, right? Not saying that in general, but it could be a possibility. So there is also the Gemara in Brachot. The Gemara in Brachot 6a, right? I'm giving you the sources for this, not to you, so you don't think that I'm making it up. You can all look it up. So the Brachot in 6a says that first of all, besides the fact that we could not endure seeing the demons, it says, what do you think there are more, demons or people in the world? We have close to 7 billion people in the world? What do you think we have more? Demons?
For sure.
There's so many more demons. The Gemara says, there are thousands upon thousands of demons surrounding each person.
100 for every man.
More than 100.
Yeah?
More than 100.
For every man?
The Gemara says 10,000 on the right side. Sin even more. Sin creates more. Exactly. Yeah, we'll speak about that also.
They're just like everywhere. They're just crawling around.
They don't have to crawl. They usually fly. But
Whatever.
they're all over the place. The question is where are they nowadays? We're talking back in the time of the Bible. We'll soon see. We'll try to clarify where we are holding nowadays. So, what happens if, let's say, you want to see them? The Gemara says, let's say you want to look at them, right? Is there a formula that you could do that you could see demons? Says the Gemara, right? And this is something that you should definitely not try at home. They say, first of all, is what you could do is if you want to discover the demons, you could take sifted ashes and you sprinkle it around your bed before you go to sleep. Right? So you have this thin, fine powdered ashes around your bed, and then in the morning you'll see something like footprints of a rooster all around the bed. Right? Now enjoy going to sleep tonight.
Does that bring him there, or just...
You just see them because they're
Because he's there already.
Yeah, they're there already. Right. So it says if you want to see that, you sprinkle it, and then you see little footprints all over the bed, right, before you go to sleep. That you think, you're going to sleep all alone. But newsflash, you got some visitors, right? Good night, sweet dreams, right? So.
Have you tried that?
No, you should not try it. You shouldn't mess around with them, and you should not. There are many the Gdolim. What they say is, don't bother them. Leave them alone. Don't interrupt. Don't bother them. As soon as you see, there's so many things.
They don't bother us.
They bother you more, but you don't know it. Now, let's say, okay, that's for let's say the amateurs. Let's say you really want to see them. Let's say you want to look at them in the eyes. You want to see how they look. Is there something you can do? It says the Gemara in Brachot again. It goes further, and it says if you really want to see them, so you take a black female cat, and it's a female cat, the daughter of the female cat. So it's two black female cats, each firstborn of each other. Right. So the firstborn, a girl, and then she had another baby, another firstborn girl. You take the placenta of that, you grind it up, and you roast it on fire, and then you grind it into powder, and then you fill your eyes with it, right? And then you'll see it.
That's witchcraft.
No, this is the Gemara says. Do not try it. It says the Gemara goes on further. First of all, it says afterwards you have to put it in an iron tube and seal it so the demons can't, get a hold of it. But then there was a rabbi, Rav Bibi Bar Abaya, that he did so. And they say also if you do that, you have to make sure your mouth is closed so they don't harm you. But there's one rabbi, big rabbi in the Gemara, that did it, and he got harmed. So I don't recommend anybody to do it, even because this is a big rabbi that did it. And then the rabbis went and prayed for him, and he got healed. But it's definitely something that you do not want to mess around with, and you do not want to, anything that I'm saying tonight is not on a practical level at all. It's all theoretical as to how you should take it. Right? So everything that I say practical, please do not use it. Okay? Yeah. So the Ramban, Nachmanides explains, says, our beings were created from 4 basic elements, right? Air, fire, earth, and water. The demons are created only out of 2, only of air and fire. That's why they are able to, the air and fire is things that are they don't exist, they're not dense. They're the opposite. That's why we cannot see them, because we see things that are created from the 4, generally of the 4 senses. They're combined. The same idea is what happens when a person dies is those 4 basic elements separate themselves as opposed to being combined. So let's move on forward. What do they eat? We said that they eat and drink like human beings. What do they eat? So first of all, they eat sort of lick the top of the water of the lakes, and they also smell smoke, and they need that for their existence. And this is why also there's certain magic that uses demons, is that there's a lot of smoke involved, and there's also a lot of blood sacrifices. There's a lot of blood type of things, and it's a lot of bodily fluid that gets involved in these things, and this is what they get their nourishment from. So okay. then also they could also take from the seeds you plant in the ground. They could take some sort of life force, right? And this is also when someone wastes seed, they're also able to manipulate something from that. And we'll soon see, that's a witch demon. So this is why there's halacha, right? If you go open up a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, right? One of the first, you open up the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, you want to learn basic Judaism. What do you have to do? One of the first halachot in the first chapters, it speaks about being modest, right? You have to be modest when you're in the bathroom. Because it says God's, when you're getting dressed in the morning, you have to dress up modestly, right? You don't walk around naked, even if you're alone at home, right? Because the answer is you're never alone. First of all, God's presence is everywhere. But more than that, there are things that are floating in your home. What do you think? They're not things looking at you in your home. You can't lock them out. They don't go out. So you have spirits, demons, and things like that. You have to dress modestly. More than that, and we'll get back to that in a second. They once made an experiment. The experiment was in Times Square. They did in Times Square, and I think they did also in China or something else, a very densely populated area, is what they put a bathroom right in the middle of a public area. And what they did is that they put mirrors on the outside, but the mirrors were mirrors only from the outside. From the inside, it was like a glass. So when you're inside, you're able to see them outside, but from the outside, all they saw was a mirror. So you saw there were people that tried to go to the bathroom over there, but then you see there are people that are doing their makeup in the in the mirror. And meanwhile, this person pens down, sitting on the toilet, is like, I can't, And they asked people. Most people were not able to go to the bathroom. They weren't able to go. They said, I can't do it with an audience, even though they know that they can't see them. Which means that they know they were on the outside. They saw that they were looking in. You can't see anything. But the people inside, they couldn't. They felt like people were looking at them. So, we have to be careful. We don't know who's watching, right? Besides the fact that God watches everything, right? So you always have to be modest. And there's more than that. There's a Gemara in Brachot 62:8 that says that whoever behaves modestly in the bathroom will be saved from three things. From snakes that are there. In the olden days, there used to be snakes and scorpions in the bathroom. So you'll be saved from snakes and scorpions and from demons, right? And they had... some even say an additional is that they will not have disturbing dreams, because one of the ways to have disturbing dreams is that the demons can able to get into your dreams and they can make you dream certain dreams, right? And we know that we learned that this in dreams, that they're able to get in through your ear and make you dream certain dreams. So there was actually a story that in the Gemara that there was two rabbis, Rab Ami and Rab Asi, that there was a certain bathroom that if somebody walked in by themselves, they would get harmed by demons, right? In the olden days, they had a bathroom that was like an outhouse. So if they went over there, they would get harmed by demons. There were two rabbis that used to go in there and not get harmed by themselves. Each one by themselves. So they asked them, how do you do it? How is that possible? So they said, we have a tradition, that the tradition is for avoiding harm in a bathroom, is whoever is modest in the bathroom, and you also have to be silent, right? You don't sit and talk on the telephone while you're in the toilet, right? There's a thing to be quiet and not say anything while you're in the bathroom. And so it's a good thing to be silenced when you are in the bathroom, especially while you're actually using the bathroom itself. Okay, let's speak about where they can be found. A person, first of all, this is we're talking about in the olden days. We're going to see it's a little bit different nowadays. A person in the olden days were not allowed to walk alone at night, because if they walk alone at night, there was a certain criteria that if you walked alone, the demon could show themselves to you, which means you could see them, they'll appear to you, and they could harm you. If you walked with two people, they could show themselves, but they can't harm you. Which means they could appear, they can't harm you. If you walk with three, they don't even show themselves to you. So the first thing is you don't walk alone at night, and I'm talking about nowadays is a little bit different because you have lights. We live in a populated city, right? This is specifically talking about in like forest, open fields, in the quiet area, completely alone at night. It's not safe to walk alone. Even more so during the 3 weeks which we are in right now, which we're going to soon see also. B'ezrat Hashem. So. There's also what they say is that you should put a small nightlight in the children's room. Sometimes you see a little infant, while they're sleeping, they suddenly start laughing. Why are they laughing? So they say that it could be that one of the demons are playing with them, with the babies, right? And it's not like, oh look, free babysitter, oh go ahead, demon. It's not something that you want. So they put the light on. It's sort of again.
Also could be angel play with them, right?
Never heard of that, but anything is possible. But when it says the Torah speaks about specifically about demons, most of the time, you're not every time you see the baby laughing, you're like, come on, demon, get out of that. It's a possibility, but don't. All you need to do is turn on the light. That's all. A little night light. Okay. So additionally, you don't sleep where they're doing construction. It's also where they hang out. So you should also, stay away from those things. Also, we're going to soon see that if you have ruins, which means that you had a building that left vacant for many years, stay away from that also. They also hang around those things, right? So generally, the demons have a stronger power at night, in public showers, which nowadays we don't really have, and in forests and empty houses. The sages, however, in the time of the Gemara, decreased the power. We're going to soon see also how then what they did. So there's also in Sefer HaChasidim, there's something very interesting that many people don't really take for serious, but they really should. It says over there that if you, let's say you have a window over here, and in your house, and you board it up, you close up the window, or you have a doorway, and you close up the doorway, you're supposed to leave a little hole for the entire, before you accept, so that there's something that's remaining. So, for example, you close everything up, you leave a little hole. Now, why? It says one of the places where they dwell, these demons, is in the windows and in the doorways. Now, they don't take up mass. So, if you happen to close up a wall that they happen to be living in, that's very dangerous, and they could go on, they could do some damage in the house. And that's why you go to certain houses, you'll see little holes. Right, So you see little holes in those places. I once went to a family member who, distant family member who did construction in his house, and he was giving me a tour and showing me all the changes that he made. And I remembered that there was a wall over there and there was a window, and I'm like, and he closed it up because he extended and he did a bunch of changes in the house. So I'm like sitting over there looking for this hole. I'm like, where? So he sees me staring at this wall. So he's like, yo, what are you doing? So I'm like, where did you put the hole for the demons? So first of all, he thought I was crazy. He's like, excuse, what demons? Come again? He's like, what are you talking about over here? So then I explained to him, I'm like, apparently he didn't realize it. I'm like, so I told him, I'm like, listen, that you have to, if you do construction, you have to make a little hole if you close up something that was open. So what did he tell me? He's like, come on, that's what do you waste time with these things? There's Baba Mai says, they don't mean anything. So I said, listen, all right, you don't want to trust me, fine. Go to your rabbi and ask him, do what he does. So, I got in his head, and he was a little bit, nervous about it. So he went to the rabbi, right? He went to a rabbi. His rabbi is not a Kabbalist. He's a very, very famous rabbi in the area that he was in, and he's well known throughout the entire world. And he went over to the rabbi, very not known for any Kabbalistic things, very halacha, straight up. And he goes over to him and he says, listen, I'm sure it's nothing, but do you ever hear about something, about a door? I did construction. Do I have to put any, and I didn't make any holes. So the rabbi tells him, he tells him, go right now to your house and make a hole right now. He says, don't wait till tomorrow. Do it right now, right? He calls me up. And he's like, yeah, he says, the rabbi just told me to go do it right now, right? I don't want to say I told you so, but a little drill a hole.
You're saying some demons dwell in the same area all the time? They don't
Yeah.
For them to
there was one time I gave his class to one of my different groups, and there was one guy over there for like 6 months after I gave this class. Every time he sat down to learn, he would look up at the window and be like, I don't want any problems, or here, So don't start doing that. You don't need to start talking to the walls. You don't need to start talking. But this is the general idea is, Rabbi Yehuda Chassid said that if you do construction, you should make a hole in it, right? So the obviously question is, if you're doing construction, you work in construction. So that's all. There's a lot of different, halachot regarding halachot. It's more customs, but that what you should do and what you should not do. Obviously, always consult your local Orthodox rabbi. Okay, so there are some people, there are some communities that they don't allow if a father passes away in Israel, they don't allow their children to go into the cemetery. Why? Because if this father wasted seed, and out of that seed came certain souls and spirits and things like that, they could damage the children that actually came alive, which means that they did not make it into this world because they were wasted. But there were children that are coming, and they get jealous of them, and it's very dangerous. There are certain communities in Israel that in cemeteries they don't allow the children to go in. Right? The children say for when they bury the father.
Just when they bury.
So now,
not for certain months or certain days.
I don't know their exact. I know for sure during when they bury him. I don't know afterwards if they allow, maybe after the year. It could be yes, could be no. I'm not familiar. Because then nobody would be allowed to go to any cemetery, eventually. So I believe it's for a certain period of time. I just don't know what is that specific period of time. Okay, so there is a very, very interesting Gemara. There's a bunch of interesting stories that you can learn a lot about them, and I'll try to say them from the time that we have. Is one of the most famous stories of demons in the Gemara is in Gittin, page 68. And there it speaks about the king of demons. What happened was Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, he was building the Beit HaMikdash, and they told him, he needed to like cut stones. But the law is that you're not allowed to cut stones with iron, because iron is made for weapons and it could be used for destruction. So he goes over to the sage and says, how am I supposed to cut the stone if I can't use iron? Like, what else could I use? So the sages told him, use the shamir worm. right? What is a shamir worm? Shamir worm is a certain worm that Moshe Rabbeinu used to make certain cuts. It's able to cut things with its, somehow it's spit, a saliva, it's able to cut through things. So he goes over to, so he says now he needs to get this shamir worm. And he goes over to the rabbis and says, okay, how am I supposed to find the shamir worm? I said, listen, that we don't know. He says, what? Go find some demons and ask them, they might know where it is. So he found 2 demons and he tied them up. And he told them, tell me where the shamir worm is. So they said, listen, we don't know where the shamir worm is, but you could ask Ashmedai, the king of demons, right? He was in charge of all the demons. So he said, fine, tell me where I could find him. So they told him he's in a certain area, and they gave him basically his schedule. What he does is, he goes up to heaven and he learns in the heavenly academy. Then he comes down, he learns in the world academy. What he does is he has a certain mountain. In the mountain, he has he digs a hole and he fills it up with water. And then he seals it with a seal. And then when he comes back down, he looks to see that his seal was, covered, and because he gets thirsty, and then he drinks from that hole. So he said, fine. So he sent Benyahu ben Yehoda. They sent him, King Solomon sent him to go capture this demon. So what did he do? He took a chain, and in this chain was engraved God's name on it. And he took a ring, a signet ring, and in the ring also engraved God's name on it. And he went to find this demon. He went into this to the mountain where they directed him, and he saw that there was sealed, and there was water inside it. So what he did is he went to the bottom, and he dug a little tunnel, and he dug a hole into this place where he kept the water. So he drained out all the water. Then what he did is he sealed this hole with a certain type of wall. And then he went and he made a hole higher up. And then he went in this hole higher up and he filled it up with wine. And then he sealed it up. And then they sat and they waited. So then they see that this demon comes down from heaven, and they come and he's very thirsty. He opens up his little his seal, and he sees that it's not water, and it's wine. And he's thinking, wine is not conducive for wisdom, so he didn't want to drink it. But then he became very thirsty, and he decided, and he drank it. He drank it and he fell asleep. I don't know what they put inside this wine, but drank it and he fell asleep. They went and while he's sleeping, they went and they bound him up with the chains of that's God's name on it. Right? When he woke up and he realized that he was bound, demons are not like people on steroids. They're a completely different strength of anything that's inhumane. So he realized that he couldn't break out to it. And Ben Yehoda said, listen, you have the names of God is on you, and that's why you can't do it. So they go and they capture this demon and they bring him back to King Solomon. As they're bringing him back for King Solomon, they saw he did some interesting things, this demon. He went and he saw a blind man, and this demon went and he put the blind man on his path while they're being led down. Right? The Gemara speaks about a list of things that he did. I'm going to say only part of it. He saw a drunk person on his, that was he lost his path. So he went and he put a drunk person on the path to get him to the right place. He saw a very lively wedding, and he cried. The demon cried. He heard a man request shoes that would last for 7 years, and he laughed. And he saw a sorcerer, someone who was practicing magic, and he laughed at him also. So when he came to actually King Solomon, they asked him, says, why did you do all these weird things? So he said, when he saw the blind man on his path, why? He says this blind man was a righteous person. And it says anybody who helps him gets rewarded. So he said him. The drunk man, why did he send him on his path? Is because this drunk man was a very wicked man. So he said, let him get his reward in this world. So he gave him an easier time, let him find his way very easily. So this way he has a reward over here and doesn't have a reward in the next world. Then he saw a very happy wedding, and he said, why did you cry? And he said he heard that the reason that he cried is because the groom is not going to live. He's going to die very soon. Right? And then the widow is not going to be able to remarry for another 13 years, do for a yibum or whatever, certain reasons. He said, then he saw somebody that requested shoes that would last for 7 years. So he said, why are you laughing? So he said, because this man is not even going to live for 7 days. He wants shoes that's going to live for 7 years. Then they asked him, why did you laugh when the guy was practicing magic? He says, because this guy is practicing magic. What is he practicing magic for? He was trying to make more money with his magic. So he says he doesn't understand that he's sitting on top of a king's treasure. He's practicing magic and he's doing all these things. Meanwhile, the money, he's sitting on gold. He's literally sitting on diamonds. So he comes over to Shlomo. They bring him to Shlomo HaMelech, and Shlomo HaMelech asked them. He says, where can I find this shamir worm? So he told them it was given over to a certain wild chicken that something in the sea. He gave him basically directions of where it is. It says you have to get it from him. So they went, and what they did was that they found out where this bird that has this shamir worm is, and they went to find it. And when they found it, they saw that the bird flew away. And what they did was the bird had a bunch of babies in its nest, and they covered the nest with glass. So when the bird came back and it saw it couldn't get in. So they figured now their thought process was now the bird has to go get the shamir worm to get through that. And that's exactly what it did. The bird went, grabbed, to get the shamir worm, to get through the glass. The chachamim, the sages that were there, screamed and the bird ran away and they were able to get the shamir worm. And that's how they were able to go and take the shamir worm for the Bet HaMikdash. Now, the Gemara, Gittin, it sounds...
How big is the worm?
I don't know. I don't know any information. I don't know any information there.
Swells and pushes up.
Yes, and we're gonna get to that. So King Solomon goes over to the king of demons and he says, "What's so special about you? Why, you so powerful? What's so great about you?" So the king of demons said, "Listen, give me the ring that you have me subdued with and the chains, and I'll show you." So King Solomon went and he took it and he gave him the ring, right? And this demon, what he did is that what it says, it's even hard to believe that he was able to. Let me just skip to this part. He took King Solomon and he threw him 400 pasos, which is about 1,000 miles. He took this, and whatever it means, he transported him, he threw him 1,000 miles, completely different area. And King Solomon, it says what was he left with? Was he left with a stick, or what was exactly left? But he went around begging. He says, I was a king of Israel, king of the world, and look where I am now, 1,000 miles. People don't even know that I'm king. And what happened was, in the meantime, was this demon, he went and he assumed the look of King Solomon. And he went and he used to, behave like a king. But he behaved a little bit crazy. He kept on, he was very, he kept on saying, "Oh, I'm the king, I'm the king, I'm the king, I'm the king." He was trying to hide something, obviously. And also he demanded to have, relations with his wives, during the time that they're not allowed to have relations. So they realized something was wrong, and they also realized that he never took off his socks. Right? He never took off his socks, even while he was having relations. So, whatever it was, a long story short, King Solomon was able to, when he came back, it's a long story in itself. He came back and he was able to, push this demon away. Okay, there was another demon. We just spoke to Ashmedai. There's another demon that also, these names are not really, you're not supposed to answer these names, but there's another demon, won't answer. Won't look at that, won't say their names. That there's a certain demon, a female demon, that she likes to basically, if somebody wastes seeds, she's able to get stuff for them. She's able to nurture things from that seed, whether it's create more demons or whatever it is that they do. She's able to take that seed, right? So people shouldn't think, wasting seed, it's nothing. No, it goes for something, and it's not something that's going to help you at all, right? It's very, very harmful for you. There was once there's a Gemara in Pesachim, page 112b. That there was a demon by the name of Igeras Bas Machlas. Now, one time this demon used to go out every night with 180,000 mazikim, like other demons, and she used to damage a lot of people at night. So one time she came across Rabbi Chanina ben Dosam, and she came across Rabbi Chanina ben Dosam, and she said, "Listen, if they wouldn't have told me how holy you are, because you're such a big rabbi, says I would have harmed you." So Rabbi Chanina answered back, says, "If I'm so holy and you cannot harm me, then I order you to stay away from all habited areas." Basically, you can't go anywhere that's settled. You can't stake around. So she was like, "Come on, you got to give me something." Well, I've been here every night of the week. Now you're not going to give me anything. So I said, "Fine, you could have Tuesday night and Saturday night, right? Those are the time when people are not usually frequent in the streets." He says, "Take those nights, but the rest of the nights you're not allowed to be here." And she said, "Fine." And she didn't say only Tuesday night and Saturday night is when she was in those areas and when people actually got harmed. Then there was another rabbi that encountered. It was Abaya. And she goes over to Abaya. "Oh, if they wouldn't tell you how holy you are, I would have been able to harm you." He says, "But now that they told me how holy you are, I can't harm you." So the rabbi said back, "Oh, if they know how holy this is how holy I am, I demand you that you're not allowed to stay in settled areas." And he really banished her from settled areas. Right? This is also one of the places we know that the demons lived in places that are not settled, right? Which is like the forests and the uninhabited houses and ruins and things like that. Okay. So there was once there's another midrash that says also a story. There was once a story regarding Rav Shimon bar Yochai. There was once the Romans made a decree, and the decree was they said three things: the Jews are not allowed to observe Shabbat, they're not allowed to do Brit Milah, and they're not allowed to do Nidah, which means that so they can't keep Sabbath, they can't circumcise, and they can't separate from their wives every 2 weeks. Do the mikvah and all that things like that. They were absolutely not. They didn't allow it. So there was one rabbi, by the name of Rabbi Reuven ben Istraboli, and now he went and he pretended to be a non-Jew, and he went over to these Roman courts and he says, "Listen," he says, "you want your enemies to be strong or weak?" So he said, "Obviously we want them to be weak." So if that's the case, let them get circumcised. We know that the circumcised are less, they're weaker. So he thought about it a second and says, "You know what? That's a good idea. You're right. Annul the circumcision against the Jews because they were the enemies." Then he goes over to them and he says, "Listen, do you want your enemies to be wealthy or poor?" So I said, "Well, it's a question. Of course we want them to be poor." So he says, then don't let them work on Shabbat. Let them keep Shabbat, because then they're working only 6 days and they're resting the 7th day. So they have to obviously make more money. They said, this is a great idea. I don't know why we didn't think about it. All right, Shabbat is back on. Then he goes over and he says, do you want your enemies to multiply greatly or to decrease? She said, what's the question? Of course we want them to decrease. So he said, if that's the case, says then let them keep Nidah. If they're keeping Nidah, 2 weeks out of the month they're not with their wives, so they have less chance of getting pregnant. So let them not. So they said, excellent idea. And they they cleared all those 3 things, and the Jews were able to do all those things. Then they figured out that it was a Jew who outsmarted them. So they said, you know what? Everything's back. And they put everything back. And now the Jews had a serious decree. So they sent Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai to speak to them and say, to try to work something out to annul these decrees. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, before he left, a demon came to him. Right, the king of the Ashmedai, some say it was Ashmedai. They came to him and he said, listen. He said, I'll tell you what. He says, I will go. The demon is telling this rabbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, I'll go and I'll possess this, the daughter of this Roman emperor, and you come and you exercise this possession, and then they'll give you whatever you want, and then you can annul the decree. So Shimon Bar Yochai says, I'll take it. This is what I can get. I'll do it. So it goes. They were making their way down to Rome, and this demon went ahead of them, and it possessed the daughter of the king. People tried to exercise. Nothing was doing. This demon was not leaving this woman. So comes this big rabbi. So they said, Rabbi, maybe if you could could exercise her. So the rabbi says, no problem. He goes, chick chak, 1, 2, 3, gets it out. Right, gets the demon out. And so the emperor says, listen, I owe you anything. He says, go to my treasure house, take anything you want. So they went, the rabbis, or a bunch of rabbis, they went to the treasure house, they found the decree that it was against the Jews, they took it and they ripped it up, and they brought it. And he said, fine, you got it, right? And from there he was able to annul the decree. So here we see a story about how the demon actually helped the Jews. Okay, there's a Gemara in Sanhedrin, 101a, and this is actually an halacha. We're not allowed to ask the Shedim to do something on Shabbat. The Shedim, the demons, have abilities to do, let's say, find certain objects, right? The general rule is, we're going to soon see the halakha, you're not allowed to deal with them. You don't go and ask them for things, you don't go and do things with them, because everybody gets, you can't get away from that, right? People get hurt from that. So you're supposed to stay away from that. There's a Gemara in Bachot 5a that says, one who recites Shema on his bed, the demon keeps away from him, right? When we spoke about dreams, it says if someone wants to have good dreams, let him say Kriyat Shema with concentration before he goes to bed. Also, it also helps to push away the demons. There's a Gemara in Sanhedrin, page 67b, that says that if you see a sorcerer, someone who's practicing magic, and he's asking for particular paraphernalia, for example, he says, I want a nail of a horse, and I want a hair of a rooster, and I want exact, very, very weird things that he needs for his magic, that his magic is through demons. As opposed to magic that they don't ask for that, then you know that it's real magic. It's not used through demons. It's pure enchantment. There's a Gemara in Sanhedrin, page 91a, that says that the gifts that Abraham gave gifts to Ishmael, to all the Arabs. What were the gifts? It says those gifts were knowledge of sorcery and demons. He told them how to use magic and how to manipulate demons. To Ishmael. To Ishmael. So there's also another Gemara in Sanhedrin, 108b, right? I don't know if you realize I'm quoting here not one Gemara. Gemaras from all over the place. What we're seeing is that there must be demons do exist. Because look, all these Ma'ot are all pointing to that conclusion. So there is a Gemara in Sanhedrin 108b that says that when Noah was rebuking the generation of the flood, so they said to him, God's going to send a destruction to us. What is he going to do? If he sends us like a flood of fire, he says we have a certain demon that is a fire extinguishing demon that we could go and manipulate it and take out all the fire. Which means is that they also knew how to use certain powers and used to be able to manipulate certain demons. Okay, there's a Gemara in Kiddushin 39b that speaks about a rabbi that there was a woman that came to him and he wanted to do a sin with him, and he pronounced certain magical formula that he was able to pronounce, and he was covered with boils, which means is now you don't want to do it, right? She saw it, and so she was able to take that back with her magic, and she took it and basically took all his boils away, so he was fresh again. So then he goes and he runs into a bathhouse, and like we said before, this was a certain bathhouse that people get hurt with demons when they're going in alone. He ran and hid in this bathhouse and he didn't get harmed. So afterwards, when he came out, the rabbis asked him, so how did you go in and you didn't get harmed? Maybe did you get tested in a test of sexual immorality? Because we learned that if someone gets a test in sexual immorality and he overcomes it, a miracle is done for him. And he said, yeah, that's what happened. There was also another one that there was another woman that came to Rab Tzadok, and she wanted to also do a sin with him. And he said, listen, I'm faint. I can't, I'm very hungry. So she says, I have here impure food. So she turned on the oven to put this impure, non-kosher food inside there. So he sees the oven open. He goes and he jumps in the oven, this rabbi. So she looks at him. She says, what are you doing over here? Why are you jumping in the oven? So he says, for the person that goes and does a sin of immorality is going to end up in the fires, right? Referring to the fires of hell. So she says, I didn't know it was, to be honest, I didn't know it was that serious. Had I known it was that serious, I would never have forced you to do this, to do the sin. I would not have tormented you. There is also, any questions so far? Okay, so let's. I want to be able to finish this. So a few more minutes, we'll be able to finish at least the majority of the information that I have on this. There's very important to stay far, far away from making any contact or any possible contact with demons. If somebody does make a contact with a demon, or worst off, a pact with a demon, the relation doesn't end with the person's death. In fact, that demon could come and follow that person to reincarnation. And if that gets severed, that connection, it could go and harm the descendants of this person, right? So it's very important to stay far away as possible from these types of things. If somebody has, they're able to, like we said before, to get things from, people waste seed and to do certain sexual immoral acts. If the sexual act is done in a holiness, the demons, nobody can touch it, right? It's a holiness. If it's done in purity, in all aspects of impurity, demons has aspect to them. They're able to manipulate that, right? And if they're able to take that, that means that they already have some control over you, right? Which means that they could do things that people have bad luck. They're not making any money. They're not doing all these things, right? And they're wasting seed. They're doing seeds with women. They're doing sins with women. They're doing all these things. It points to one direction. Okay, so there is the tool, right? And Yoredah says that it is forbidden to go and to bind, to try to get things out of demons. Sorcery, go find out for me certain information. Go do this for me. Go, give me some money. Go find something for me, right? Those things are forbidden to do, right? And more than that, it says people that, the Bet Yosef says, people that get involved with demons do not remain unscathed. So now the question is where are demons today, right? In the olden days, there are so many stories that I told you from the Gemara about demons. So where do we see demons today? How come we don't have any, stories or at least popular stories that you see demons? So, Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky answers this question. But before that, we have to ask also, he answers the question, the Rambam, Maimonides says, there's no such thing as demons. Demons do not exist, right? So the obvious question is, but the Torah speaks about demons. The Torah speaks about demons. So Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky in Emes LeYaakov, he answers an amazing but simple answer. He says as follows. He says, how come nowadays you don't see witchcrafts, you don't see these possessions, you don't see demons, you don't see this too often? Why not? So he says, first of all, God makes everybody always have a free will, always have free choice. Now, when the time that there were prophets, right, and a prophet prophesied and said, listen, it's in 2 weeks' time, there's a big storm going to come, and half of this country is going to get destroyed, right? 2 weeks come, and exactly that happens. And he keeps on prophesying the truth, right? What eventually you're going to say? No one's going to have free will. Whatever he says, we're doing, right? Which it should be, but there still has to be an aspect of free will. So God at that point in time when we had prophets, so there was magic, there was demons or things like that. So people will say, okay, maybe you got that through demon knowledge, maybe you got that through magic. How do we know that it was through these things? So when the big rabbis are making miracles, he says there was magic. So say, okay, maybe he did it through this. Basically, always the pasuk is zelu madzebra elokim, which means is God created everything in an equal playing field, right? In Kohelet we say that, which means is there's always an equal playing field. When we had Moshe Rabbeinu, we had Bilam. Right? Always equal. The equal of the good has the equal of the evil. Nowadays, we went so low. What? We have no good? We went down in where we used to be compared to what we used to be, the level of the tzaddikim that we used to have. So he says in the olden days, and he explains like this. So he says when prophecy stopped, witchcraft stopped. When Bat Kol came, when a heavenly voice that used to say certain things stopped, demons stopped. When righteous people could no longer perform miracles, stop, the forces of Tumah stop, right? Everything is on an equal playing field. So he answers it. This is how he answers the Rambam. Rambam lived about 1,000 years ago. He says we don't have demons. He says, you know why we don't have demons now? It's because we're not on the level that they used to have demons. We used to be such a high level that we needed the demons to balance it all out. Now we're so low that we don't have that ability to have demons. Now, if you're going to ask me what happens to demons nowadays, do demons exist nowadays? There are many people and there are many rabbis that still say yes, that they are around and they are, they're still out there, and there's still things that you're supposed to do to prevent yourself from it.
Yeah, there's been many cases also.
There are many cases, and many also, interesting cases. But that's just how you answer. That's a general answer, and it answers beautifully for Maimonides. Yeah.
Rambam said, right now they don't exist, or they never exist.
So according to that, it's right now. According to that answer, is right now. But it's complicated. It's not so simple. Now, there's an interesting. If you want to say that they don't exist, it comes into a little bit of problems because we have halachot, right? The halachot that we know now is 3 weeks, right? Between Shiva Asar B'Tammuz to Tisha B'Av is 3 weeks, and there's a halacha that there is a certain demon, and it actually says how it looks. The demon's covered with scales and hairs and has eyeballs all over its body, and he sees from the eyeballs situated in his chest. And where does he reside? He resides in an area that's partly sunny and partly shady. And how does he move? He moves like rolling like a bowl, this certain demon. And that is very powerful during this specific time of the year, which we are in right now. And that's why there's halakha. It says that people should not go outdoors, partially shaded areas, between the 4th and the 9th halachic hours of the day. Right? For what? For fear of this demon. It's actual halakha. You look at they actually bring it. The Shulchan Aruch brings it down. The Shulchan also brings down. That says you have to be right. And the Shulchan Aruch doesn't speak about Kabbalistic things, but yet it speaks about this demon that's around nowadays. That's why people are very careful nowadays during this three weeks. You don't hit children, right? And you don't hit teachers, right? You don't hit the teachers. You should never hit teachers, but the teachers shouldn't hit the students. In the olden days, right, before there was 911 on speed dial for every child, they used to, if the child would misbehave, they would hit the child. Then the child would come home, tell him that his teacher hit him. What would they do? They hit the child again. Why did you do that? The teacher would hit you, right? Nowadays, they look at the child wrong, right? There's already a lawsuit that's in the mail. So, but it's very important you don't hit your children in these days. That's why also nowadays during these 3 weeks you don't go to you don't do dangerous things. You don't go to certain trips. You don't go, and that's why in the 9 days also you don't go swimming. You don't do certain things. Partially the reason is because of this certain demon that has it. There was once this story. There was a teacher that was about to give a little hit to one of his students that was misbehaving, and there was a rabbi there, and the rabbi saw that he took a little stick to try to give him a little tap, and the rabbi went and said, "What are you doing?" So he said, "Oh, I'm just going to give him to straighten him out." He says, "No. He says, you don't know. You don't understand. I see the demon behind you. The demon is there behind this demon with a big iron bar. He's waiting to give a little tip, and then he goes and he gives the rest of the hit. So you have to be very careful during nowadays, and this time specifically to careful where we go. Not to there are also people that are careful not going swimming, and they don't go on these certain trips, roller coasters or whatever it is, or they stay away from certain things. So this is an actual halakha. This is a halakha. So here we see that demons there is something to worry about today. Right? There's actually a few halachot regarding that. So there's also Rabbeinu Bachai. I want to also say that. He divides demons into 3 categories, right? Which should give you an idea of their purpose. Number one, there are those that live in the atmosphere, and they cause nightmares. There are also those that live amongst people, and they cause people to sin. And there are also, the 3rd category is those that, he's following the Midrash, that speaks about that those that are strange to the depths of the ocean, right? Which also comes to the mind that what was the purpose of demons? Why did God create demons? Angels, we know, they're messengers, right? Demons, one of the purposes is that they go and they met out punishments. They met out certain punishments to people that are deserving of it. Additionally, there is there are many people that have certain things to before we do that, we'll finish. I think I'll say one story. If you have any questions before we do that? We move on? Okay.
One question. Mm-hmm. If, let's say you said somebody sees a demon, right? At a glance, right?
Right.
Is there some kind of a sign that this person should have seen the demon? Or?
If he saw it, there was obviously there where he was given permission to see it. Yeah. Which means you can't see it. There's no by accident. There's no oh man, I forgot to put my invisibility cloak. Well, there's a reason for it. You can't. You don't want to kill it. There's no. How are you going to kill a demon? Right? With the words of Torah, you can prevent it. Right? Again, when a person sins, they create mazakim. They create these damaging angels. Right? These damaging angels can come and they hurt a person. Right? When a person does a good deed, a mitzvah, he's sitting and learning Torah. Every second that he's learning Torah, he's creating another angel. Right? And that's protecting him. He's doing another sin. Every second he's doing another sin, he's creating another demon or another this. Somebody that does all these sins, and then they realize, why is my luck so bad? Well, your luck's so bad. You build yourself an arsenal, an army of demons, right? Meanwhile, you have two little, you have like a handful of, good angels fighting for you, and you have an army of demons that are, or mazikim, bad angels that are against you. It happens to be, there's also very interesting, which we don't have time to speak about today. There are certain demons that are, I guess you could call them like Jewish demons. They believe the Torah, they do certain things. They do certain things, right? There's, we know there's a famous Yosef the demon, right? They even have Jewish names. And we spoke about that story with the circumcision, right? Maybe I'll say it very quick. It's an amazing story. There was actually two stories that I wanted to say, but I'll say this one. It's an amazing story. Even if you heard it, it's good to hear it again. It's in the Kav Yashar, chapter 25, that he speaks about. There was once a guy who was a mohel, and he did circumcisions, but he was a very, very stingy person. Extremely, extremely stingy. Would not give money for anything. So much so that he would not even go to synagogue on Mondays and Thursdays because that's when people came to collect. Right, so he really did not give anything. But there was one thing that he did, is he always went and he did the circumcision. Not only did he do the circumcision, which he was the actual one, was the mohel, he did it for free. He didn't want to take any money for it. And one day he gets a knock on his door, and there's this, big person in front of him over there, a very handsome looking person, and he says, listen, I have I just had a child a few days ago, can you come I heard that you do the Brit Milah, can you please come and do the Brit Milah? So he says, absolutely, let me go get my bag. And he said, listen, it's quite some time. It's about a few days, drive out from where we are, or wagon ride out. He says, no problem, not a problem. He goes and he gets into this wagon, and they start traveling towards this person, to this Brit Milah. He takes all his supplies, and he's looking out the window over there, and he sees, he's passing by his town, and it's fine. And then suddenly he sees that they're passing by these roads that he's never seen before in his life. He's never seen these roads before, and they're passing by paths, and he used to travel a lot. It's very interesting because I've never traveled this way, and he doesn't say anything, and they keep on traveling for 3 days. They travel. Finally, they get to this amazing town, a town that he's never seen like before. Mansions and everything is beautiful. It's like paradise town, and he's like, wow, it's unbelievable. It's like people here must be really wealthy. And he goes into this town, and they take him to the biggest house on the town, and that's where this person obviously was one of the people in charge of this town, and he had a son who needed a Brit Milah. So he goes, he says, it's okay if I'm going to go, I'll just, freshen up, it's been a long ride, I'm going to put all my supplies upstairs, and, this person, the father said, absolutely, go, take your time. And he goes up, he sets up all his things in the room, whistling, while he's doing it, very relaxed, calm, happy, he's got a nice big room, and then suddenly he gets a knock on the door, right? And he opens it up. There's a woman standing there. And the woman quickly pushes herself in, close the door, right? And she's like looking around, and she's obviously very nervous. And he says, woman, is everything okay? And she says, listen, I can't stay here for long, but I have to tell you something. And he says, please, have a seat, And she says, no time for that. He says, all you need to know is this whole town, they're not of human stock. So he's like, I'm sorry, I've been a long ride. I didn't get that. What did you say? And she's like, all the people over here, they're not human. And he's like, so what exactly do you mean by that? He says they're all demons. She said when she was younger, she got captured by a demon, and they brought her here, and she's lost. And she said that everybody's a demon, and she had a baby boy with the demon, and now they're having a Brit Milah. So meanwhile, this guy turns white. He's like, I'm in a place I don't know how to run out of here. I can't do anything. He's like, and she's like, all I can tell you is don't take anything from them. Do not, if they offer you something, don't take anything, because if you take something, they own you. So he's like, all right, he is sweating, right? He feels his heart over here, and he is, he's pale, and, he's like, how am I going to get out of it? He's sitting in this room, this woman leaves, and he's, what am I supposed to do? And he goes, and he's thinking back and forth. A few hours go by, and there's another knock on his door. He opens it up. It's the person that brought him here, the father of the baby. And he sees this guy's white, he's sweating. He's like, you don't look so good. Is everything okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm not feeling that well. He says, why don't you come down and eat something? Maybe you'll feel up. He says, no, the ride, I'm really nauseous. I really can't eat anything. He's like, listen, I'm not taking anything with this guy, right? He says, I can't do, I can't. I'm not feeling well. I can't. I'm nauseous. This ride. Let me. There. So fine, not a problem. He says, once you rest up tomorrow, we'll reconvene, to get an early night. So fine, he goes to sleep that night, or he tries to go to sleep. The next morning, he gets a knock on the door, and he says, listen, why don't you come down for breakfast? And so now he's got to think, again, I got to need another excuse. So this mohel says, listen, I had a bad dream last night, and I'm fasting today. I can't eat today. I'm fasting for the bad dream. So the demon says, all right, makes sense. And fine. So the next day was the circumcision. Finally comes the circumcision, he goes, and you say, usually you have to be very careful, he's like sitting over there, shaking. I've seen once a mohel do that circumcision like that, and I'm telling you, I was scared for the baby. He was nervous, and he was shaking, and it was dangerous. So this mohel, he was doing this circumcision, and meanwhile, he looked all around. He says, oh, look, they're normal people, but in his mind, they're like, well, how are they dressed up as humans? They're probably all demons, and he can't get it out of his mind. And he does the brit milah. So finally, they invite him afterwards, and they say, please, why don't you have something to eat? And he says, no, it's okay. After all that fasting, I'm not so hungry. I'll eat later. He's basically pushing off. He doesn't want to eat. Doesn't want to take anything from them. So the head of this person, so the head of the demon says, hey, listen, why don't you come along with me? I want to show you something. And he's like, stay. Here's good. Why don't you go? I say, no, come. And there's certain people that they say, no, you're gonna come, right? And he's like, oh, okay. It's a little puppy. He walks along with them. Right? He has this big guy walking over there, and he's, starting to sweat. He's like, this is it. He says, Shema Yisrael. Time to meet my end. And he walks, this demon takes him out, and he comes to a field, and he has a bunch of big houses there. He opens up his first house, and he looks inside, and he goes over to this person. He says, inside his house is full of silver. So he says to this mohel, he says, please, take anything you want. You did a great favor. You came so far for me. I want to pay you. He says, take anything you want from this house. Take as much as you want. So this mohel is looking. He says, listen, it's really generous of you, but I have a thing. I don't take any money for it's what I do. I don't take any money from mohel for any brit milah. So he says, okay, all right. You know what that usually means, right? That means negotiate on the price. He says, all right, why don't you come over here? He says he takes him to the next house. The next house, he opens it up, full of gold that he's never seen so much gold before in his life. And he says, why don't you go, take whatever your heart desires. And he says, it's really generous of you, but it's my thing. I don't take anything for brit milah, and I like to stick with that. So I see you're a tough cookie, says the big demon. So he says, why don't you come here? Let me show you one more room. So he goes over he opens up this room, and it's the biggest diamonds he's seen, all full of gems. He says, biggest diamonds he's never seen before. He says, here's a sack, fill it up, right? You'll be rich for the rest of your life. And he says, listen, I appreciate you trying to give me so much money. He says, to be honest, I'm independently wealthy. I really don't need this. I have all the money. I appreciate it, but thank you and no thank you. So the demon says, listen, I see you have some extra protection over here. He says, let me show you one last thing. He goes up to show him another room. He opens it up. In this room is full of nails in the wall. On each nail is a key. So this person looks in and says, very nice. You have nice keys. Not something I particularly collect, he says. But he says, why don't you go take a walk around, the demon says. So he walks around. He's looking around over there. Suddenly he stops in front of one nail, and he turns white. And he looks, and he starts shaking. And he's like, where did you get these keys? And he says, do they look familiar, the demon says? So he says, these are my keys to all my house, to all my storage house, to all my safes. He's like, how'd you get them over here? So he says, listen, obviously God is protecting over you, so let me tell you something. He says, I'm really a demon. I am the demon in charge of stinginess. You, at a certain point, you are so stingy that you lost your free will for not being stingy anymore. If you want to give charity, you can't give charity. You lost your free will. Right? There are certain people that the more they sin, they lose the free will to try not to do it. Right? There are people that think, okay, I'll go waste seed, or I'll go whatever I'll do, I'll go steal. After a certain time, it's very difficult for a person to do tshuva. It's very difficult. He says, you are so stingy for so long, you lost your free will. So much so is that they gave me your keys. I have your keys. All these rooms around here, he says, all these things, I have their keys. And he says, being that you did for me something so special and something so good, I want you to take those keys back. And he's like, listen, I appreciate it, but I really don't want to take anything, So he says, okay, listen. He says, I give you a guarantee. He says, take the keys. I will have no control over you. This is for you as a present, and there's no connection. That's it. We're done. So he took the keys and he went home. He brought him back home. And when he went home, he said this person was a completely changed person. He went and he was giving charity. He was going to every person that came to him, and he's like, here's charity, take charity. I don't want to be associated with those demons anymore. I don't want them to take away my keys. He gave away everything for them, right? This is a story that was brought down in the Kav HaYashar. We learned a few things from this story. First of all, number one is that there's something going on over here with demons. Number two is that a person has to be careful. People think that, I'll do this sin and it's okay. I'll repent when I need to. And you could ask anybody who had done any sin for a long period of time. It's very, very difficult to stop. if the more that you do it, the more harder it is to stop. In any case, we see over here, and we see from many stories today, that there are such a thing as demons nowadays. Even though you could say that even if they do exist nowadays, the power is much, much less than it used to be. But across the board, you want protection against them, Torah and mitzvot. You do Torah, you listen to the Torah, you listen to all the mitzvot that we have to do, you gain protection over them, right? You do sins, you're opening up an entrance for them. So there's more sins more than others, like we spoke about. But the bottom line is that the more one protects himself, the more, and again, don't go and looking for them, don't go and try to find them, don't go and try to see them, don't try to do anything, stay away from them. It says whoever goes and tries to, they don't bother people that they don't look after them. So stay away from them. If you do have certain issues that come up, there are many people that I've spoken to people, is that they originally they used to have really bad dreams, and they used to see certain demons in their dreams. And then afterwards, they start seeing things when they're awake, right? They see things when they're awake, right? And they can't, they don't want to tell anybody because everybody will think that they're crazy, right? And they don't know what to do. So those type of people obviously have to go speak to their, local Orthodox rabbi, and he has to, proceed to them to whichever area that he tells them to go. But in general, stay away from them. I think that was pretty clear on that idea. Any questions? No questions?
So this guy Shmagai.
Did I stop? Yeah. Is it still going on?
He's like a chacham, right?
Is mine still going? What? He's yeah, right? Is it still red? I can't see.
He sounds like almost a halfway righteous